there was a television show in New York on one of the local stations, and as was common during that time period, they would produce their own local children's programming, with a host. Sometimes they called him an uncle or something like that. They were hosting cartoons. Some of the more creative ones actually did like comedy bits. There was a fellow named Chuck McCann who went on to become a pretty well-known character actor and voice actor, but he did a kids show in New York for quite a few years, and he was partnered with a man named Paul Ashley, who was a brilliant puppeteer. He made hand puppets, but they were articulated like dummies, so they had the slotted jaw, the eyes moved or closed, the eyebrows would as I remember, they went down, so it would change the expression. So I was kind of inspired by that. There was another host of one of these kids shows, Terry Bennett. Now he came out of Chicago originally, and he moved to New York in the early =60s, and he took over the show that Chuck McCann previously did when he moved to another station. But Terry he had two Marshall figures, which I would look at the screen and say, that's what I want. That's what I want. And one of the segments that he did for about 6 weeks on the show, it was on every Sunday morning. He says, you can build your own dummy. And I said, wow, I hit the jackpot here. And he had a wooden base with a light bulb socket screwed onto it and a light bulb screwed in, and he'd build up the clay over the light bulb and then do layers of paper mache over it. So the first one I ever built was just like that. And once I got a copy of the Winchell book, he talked about making a mold of Jerry, and the famous story of filling a bathtub with plaster.
Which is funny as
I know. And it's really true, too, because Paul told me that was really a true story. I reasoned that, well, we got a negative mold, we could put something inside that mold, and I got some plastic wood. And because going back to Paul Ashley and Chuck McCann, on one segment of Chuck's show, they had a question and answer thing where people could write in, and some kid wrote in that Mr. Ashley, how do you make your puppets? And in about 30 seconds, Paul described it, saying, well, you sculpt it in clay, and then you cover it with plaster, and then it's the plastic wood, and you cut it out, and it was all over the place with the explanation, but it was enough for me to kind of figure it out and say, okay, well that makes sense, So I started doing that, and by the end of the next year, I had one finished.